Hi, everyone. Welcome to the fun face-off between FastAPI and Flask 2.0. I am super excited that you are here with me today, and I can't wait to get started. So I just wanted to set some learning objectives on what we'll cover during our time together today. So we are going to go on a hero's journey together. Okay, that's first and foremost. And hero's journey is a popular story structure made famous by Joseph Campbell. And it's used in a lot of Greek mythology and many cultures around the world. So I'll quickly set up our story, okay? And then we'll use this hero's journey format all throughout this talk. Then we are going to start our fun face-off, right? Between FastAPI and Flask 2.0. And during this face-off, right, between these two Python web frameworks, here are some areas we are going to go over. The first is how to quickly set up a hello world application in both FastAPI and Flask, HTTP methods, focusing on a post method, automatic documentation, which is just interactive documentation using the browser that will make your life a lot easier when debugging. And we'll see how that's done in both FastAPI and Flask 2.0. We're also going to chat about data validation, right? And how something called Pydantic helps us with providing user-friendly errors when data is invalid, which is really nice. We're going to go over template folder structure, like if you want to do a web application or web development, and how you would serve up HTML, what might look like. Lastly, we're going to cover running in production using WSGI or WSGI versus ASGI and why you want to use one over the other. Then we'll choose, why you'd use FastAPI over Flask and vice versa. Lastly, make sure you stay until the end because I have a freebie for you. So sit back and relax, okay? Get your cup of coffee or your water and let's go on this hero's journey together. I feel your pain. Okay, imagine you're banging your head against the wall at work. And you're trying to choose between Python web frameworks, Flask versus FastAPI. And you're caught up in this vicious cycle, right? You choose one and then you want to choose the other one and you keep going back and forth and you just can't make up your mind. And as if your day couldn't get any worse, your boss comes to you on a Friday, okay, with 15 minutes left in your day, and he says, I need a huge favor. He kind of has his hands on his hips or pointing at you, and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, what could he possibly need right before the weekend? And he says to you, we just won our biggest customer ever, and I need you to choose the Python web framework today. And you're like, today? I mean, you're not sure if you can do it because you have plans with your friends later tonight. And besides, your tech lead is not in the office at the moment. Or you might even be the tech lead. I'm not sure. You might be. So you commit the cardinal sin. And you ask your boss, can I do it on Monday? Your boss looks angry, very angry, and he starts shaking and trembling. And then his body becomes engulfed in a tornado. And he's swallowed right in the middle of it. And his skin's ripping apart. And he turns into the evil internet ice lady. And you're like, what the shapeshifter heck is going on here? And she laughs evilly. Ha, 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 ha. You will choose between FastAPI and Flask 2.0 today, or else I will use my powers to freeze the internet forever. You quickly think to yourself, oh my God, if the internet is frozen, I won't be able to watch Avengers or binge watch Loki. Then you say to the evil internet ice lady, okay, I will do it under one condition. I need to send a Slack message to someone. With malice in her voice, she asks, who might that be? And you say, my tech lead. Hi, I'm Tonya. I'm a former professional athlete turned Pythonista. I played pro ball in Europe and a little bit in the WNBA here in the States. So along with Python, you may see some sports references during the story, so I hope you like sports. And I'm currently a Python developer advocate at Vantage, which is a leading communications API provider. You can use our APIs to build applications using like video, voice, and text messaging, and much more. Our customers range from like the telehealth industry to insurance companies to startups. So before we continue with our hero's journey and our FastAPI versus Flask 2.0 Faceoff, I would like to set some expectations. And I might go back to the basics sometimes because everyone here might be at different learning stages. And I'm not sure, you could be more senior, more junior, more mid-level. So sometimes you will see me go back to the basics and explaining things. Yes, so because I'm not sure about you, but when I first learned how to code, it felt like my head was going to explode. So I don't want you to have that experience. And what has your coding journey been like? I would love to know more about you, how your coding journey has gone and how it's going now. Yeah, so I would just love to learn more about you. And if you like sports, who are your favorite sports teams? So back to our story. You just finished messaging your tech lead and she gave you a major pep talk. She's like, she reminded you of all the hard work you put in and all the new things you've learned over the last several months. And now you're feeling you feel confident that you can pass the evil ice lady's challenge and save the world from frozen internet. So let our face-off between FastAPI and Flask begin. So the evil internet ice lady barks at you. Tell me how Flask and FastAPI are alike. And you say, well, both are high performance and lightweight Python web frameworks. They are both micro frameworks and are stripped down without all the bells and whistles, so it allows for flexibility. Then she says, okay, well, tell me how they are different. And you say, one is battle tested and the other one is newer. One comes with lots of built-in libraries and the other one you have to install some extensions. The evil internet ice lady scrunches her nose at you. Then she demands you tell her how to get a quick Hello World application up and running in both Flask 2.0 and FastAPI. So you say, okay, there's two things to understand when running your Hello World application. The first are decorators. And decorators are functions which modify the functionality of other functions. They start with the @ symbol followed by the name of the decorator. You continue. You can think of it like decorating a cake. It starts with something, then you modify it by adding the frosting, the flowers, and the sprinkles. The next thing to understand is a route. A route maps a function to a URL, so it knows which web page to take the user to making the request. You're on a roll. Then you explain the code as the evil internet ice lady gawks at you. So in versions of Flask prior to Flask 2.0, this app.route is the decorator here, the @app.route. And it's routing or mapping this function home to the URL. In this case, it's a \, which is the root or the index page. And it just returns the Hello World dictionary here. In Flask 2.0, things get much simpler. Route decorators were added for common HTTP methods like GET, and it still maps to the function home and returns hello world. And it gets served up on port 5000 by default, but you can change the port if you like. Flask 2.0 is very similar to FastAPI with a simple GET route, although FastAPI was the first to incorporate mapping the route to each HTTP methods. So from the beginning, FastAPI uses an HTTP method in the route. In FastAPI, all the HTTP verbs like get, post, put, delete have their own decorators. And then you're just returning a dictionary with hello world. FastAPI gets served up on port 8000 by default, but once again, you can always change the port and it returns hello world. So both require little code to get a hello world app up and running. The evil ice lady is looking even more evil, and she says, okay, well, let's see what you know about running a development from the terminal. You take a deep breath, then you say, running code locally on your machine first, so you don't put error-prone code in production. Yes, very important. So let's talk about this. So to run a development in Flask, from your command line, you have to export your main Python file, right? Which in this case is app.py. You run the Flask development server by running Flask run. But if you want to make a code change, you'll have to keep restarting the development server every time. And in order to keep the development server running, you have to export development into the Flask_env variable. Like so. With FastAPI, running a development is pretty awesome because FastAPI uses something called hot reloading. And hot reloading keeps the app running when you're making code changes, right? So you don't have to keep restarting the development server. And all you have to do is pass in the reload flag in the terminal here. And to start the server, you just type uvicorn main:app, where main is the name of your Python file you're running. So main.py, right? And think of uvicorn as a lightning fast server that allows your application to perform faster. So hot reloading will save you lots of development time because your application reloads automatically anytime you change the code. Evil Ice Lady says, that is correct, okay? But how would you execute an HTTP method like a post request? You take a drink of water, which I'm gonna do now, and you clear your throat. Then you take in a deep breath and say, HTTP methods are action-oriented verbs. And so we've already covered how to do a GET, which is read-only. So let's see how to do a post in Flask and FastAPI. A post request is for creating a resource, okay? So for like submitting data, like a form to the server. In Flask, prior to Flask 2.0, let's say we have this list of dictionaries called teams. Okay, you see my sports references here? This is my favorite basketball team, Milwaukee Bucks. And in previous versions of Flask, you'd have to pass in a list called methods to the decorator and specify the type of request, which is a post. Flask 2.0 makes it much easier, just like we saw with our GET request. All you have to do is specify the HTTP method post in the decorator. Okay, and this is a new team that you would like to create or add to your existing list of dictionaries. And then you return it using JSONify, which turns the Python dictionary into JSON so the server can interpret the data. But if you pull up your browser and go to the route, you'll actually get a 405 method not allowed error because this is a post request. And by pulling up a web page, that's doing a GET request. So you have to use an external tool, something called you can use Postman, which acts as a client. So you can see your post requests and the data that you've created in JSON format. FastAPI and Flask 2.0 is very similar when it comes to post request, except for one exception. which we'll talk about in a minute, but FastAPI provides separate decorators as well for each HTTP method, like at app.get, app.post, delete, and put. So with FastAPI, you don't have to use a tool like Postman. Okay, you don't have to use Postman to test your post requests. The evil internet IC lady interrupts you and she says, yes, I know FastAPI, you don't need to use Postman. So tell me, how would you test post requests using automatic documentation? You take a deep breath because you know this answer will be important and you can't screw up now. So you explain, automatic documentation is an interactive API documentation where you can see your request in the browser, such as post request, and interact with them like passing in data and seeing what response that you get back. It's like magic, really. That'll make your life easier and you don't need to use Postman. This is how automatic documentation in FastAPI works. FastAPI is based on something out of the box called Pydantic. So there's no need to install it. Pydantic is a framework for easily modeling and validating data. Pydantic also does data validation and uses Python type hints, in which you'll get friendlier data validation errors, which reduces debugging time. So type hints are just what they sound like. They hint at the type of variable type that you're using, and they help document code and catch bugs sooner. An example of a type hint would be here, this variable, which is player_ID, followed by the type int or integer. Pydantic also works together with something called Swagger UI for the automatic documentation, which allows you to visualize and interact with your APIs in your browser. So to create the Pydantic model for automatic documentation, you would use Pydantic and you would import the base model from Pydantic. Okay, and then our class will inherit from this base model. So for example, both your parents have brown eyes, it's highly likely that you'll inherit their brown eyes as well. And inheritance and object-oriented programming works the same way. So here we're importing base model. We have a class called player, that inherits from base model, and we're declaring variables as type hints. So as you can see, like player_name is type string, player_team is type string, player_age is type int. And inside our function definition, we have a parameter we're passing in called request, okay? And this is the type of player that is of type player, okay? And this is actually a type in, right? You're just saying, pass in this variable called request of type player. And it returns a dictionary, okay? So this is like the boring part of automatic documentation. So let's get to some really awesome stuff. So to access automatic documentation, you would just go to your local host /docs. And you'll see a schema, which is like a skeleton for your model with your variables. And here you can see which variables are required or optional. We don't have any optional variables in this example, but the required variables have red asterisks next to them. And you can also try it out. There is a try it out button. It's not in this screenshot, but there is a try it out button that you can use to test your API endpoints by passing in values for the variables. So here we're passing in like player name, Michael Jordan, player team, Chicago Bulls, player age, 32. So it's kind of like a sandbox, right? You can pass in variables to the sandbox and then you click execute. Okay, and this will give you the response body, or what the server will receive for the post request. You also get back a curl request. Okay, and which lets you talk to a server by sending data or making a request through the command line. It generates it for you automatically, so you don't have to write it from scratch. With Flask, there's no built-in feature for automatic documentation, generation in Flask. You have to use the Flask Swagger extension, which requires a lot of configuration, as it doesn't come out of the box with Swagger. Automatic documentation comes out of the box with FastAPI, so you don't have to install anything. And it uses Pydantic out of the box as well. The evil internet ice lady creeps closer to you. She sticks her icy finger in your face and she demands you tell her about data validation and why it's important. You continue. Well, data validation uses our friend Pydantic. An example of data validation FastAPI would be something like this. We can create a class that inherits from base model again. So our class name here is login, and base model is a Pydantic model with type-hinted variables, right? Username, password are both strings, and agreed to terms is an optional Boolean. In our function, okay, we check if username equals Jane Doe and password equals password 12345. If it's successful, then it returns a message success. If it fails or not successful, if the data is invalid, we fail it and the message of authentication failed gets returned. So when you use automatic documentation for data validation, we can once again click the try it out button and pass in data into our little sandbox here. So for the username, I'm going to pass in none. Password we'll leave as password 12345, which is correct, and agree to terms, we'll just set it to true. Pydantic will work its magic. So you'll get a friendly message telling you exactly what the error is. And in this case, our error is expecting value, right? The message MSG here, expecting value line 2, column 15, char 16. And that's exactly right, because we passed in none to the username. So this automatic documentation or Pydantic is expecting a value, which we didn't give. In Flask, Pydantic does not come out of the box. So you can install it using Flask-Pydantic for data validation. So with FastAPI, you get Pydantic out of the box, which gives you friendly error messages and reduces the time spent debugging, which is always nice. The evil internet ice lady is furious and she calls you a know-it-all. Then she asks, well, what if I want to create a web page? What's this template folder business? You can feel you're coming down to the home stretch and you're more relaxed. And you say, the templates folder stores your HTML files if you want to build a web application. In Flask, by default, Flask looks for HTML templates in a templates folder and stores your HTML files like index.html, players.html. In Flask, you have to import render_template here. Then you serve up the HTML file you want to render, which in this case is our index.html. In both Flask and FastAPI, you have to use Django. Okay, it's a templating language to display your variables in HTML. And Django is a templating engine that allows you to write code similar to Python to display the HTML. And here's an example of what that looks like. So for example, here's your index.html file. To display variables in Django, you have to surround the variable with double curly braces like so. In FastAPI, you have to explicitly define the templates folder in your code. So the first thing that you can do is create the templates folder, right, in your project directory like we did in Flask. Then in your code, you import Jinja 2 templates from FastAPI, like so. Next, you would create a templates objects or variable that you can use that you can reuse later. Okay, and here in the function definition, the request type in FastAPI will know to pass the request, okay, and that parameter you want returned in the template. Lastly, you use the templates you created earlier to render and return a template response. As you can see here, and you just pass in the request and your variable, which in our case is the player ID, as a dictionary, as one of the key value pairs. So this is like a context. You probably heard the term context. So you can access it in Jinja 2 later, just like we did in Flask earlier. So with Flask, you just need to create the templates folder and call render template. So it is a little bit more intuitive to work with that. So at this point, Ice Lady is standing directly in front of you, and you can taste her icy breath. And with her arms folded and her veins like popping out of her forehead, she grunts, "Last thing, running in production." You can smell victory, but you don't want to give up now. So you say, "Going live so the whole world can see." In FastAPI, production is pretty marvelous because it uses ASGI, which is an interface that sits between a Python web server and a framework. And ASGI is special because it allows for async Python applications, which makes them lightning fast. ASGI is asynchronous. Okay, and this is how asynchronous applications work. Imagine this, okay, you have a bunch of requests coming in, and they don't have to wait for the other ones to complete or finish before they start processing. So there's overlap here with requests, and that makes it much faster, okay? So think of it like ordering food at a restaurant. You can order food and other people don't have to wait for you to order their food, right? And the restaurant workers are continuously taking orders, cooking and serving food. With Flask uses something called WSGI or WSGI, or the Python Web Server Gateway Interface, which has been the Python standard for many years now. And WSGI is synchronous. So imagine you have a bunch of requests coming in, and each request has to wait in line for the others before it to complete. And notice there is no overlap like there was with ASGI. You can think of this example kind of like a queue data structure, or like FIFO, first in, first out. You can also think of it like waiting in line at the movie theater, and you're at the end of the line and you have to wait for the other people in front of you to get their ticket. So ASGI makes for faster performance in your web applications because the way they process requests asynchronously. The evil Ice Lady is super angry, and she pulls out her sword and puts it up to your neck and says, "Choose a winner." So you think to yourself, okay, this is a trick question, and you're feeling conflicted. So this is how you answer. My winner? Okay, this is how I would choose. Use Flask for this. It's battle tested. Okay, it's been around for a long time, so it's reliable. Use it for, getting up a quick prototype. Use it for web application because you saw how easy it was to use a template folder. Use FastAPI for this. If you want to increase your development speed, time, and performance, okay, I would use FastAPI. Use FastAPI if you want to reduce errors and bugs because of Pydantic and the data validation and type hinting. Use it for API development. In my opinion, I feel like it's going to definitely become the standard in the near future, like really near future, in many years to come for APIs. And documentation. FastAPI, right? If you want to get up and running quickly with a new framework, use FastAPI because for many reasons, but the documentation is amazing. It's probably the best I've ever seen actually in tech. Ice Lady lunges towards you. You remember what your tech lead said earlier. To kill the evil Ice Lady, say these 3 words. Say these words 3 times. Melt, melt, melt. The evil internet Ice Lady melts away forever. The internet is restored to the world, and you get to binge watch all of your favorite shows again. You are the hero, hence Hero's Journey. The end. So, hope you enjoyed that story and our face-off, and we have a freebie for you. We're giving you a coupon code to try our APIs at Vonage. You can just take a screenshot of this or write down the code, which is highlighted in the hot pink there. And yeah, so we're giving you this free credit. It's €10, I believe, to use our APIs and to build cool stuff. And it's redeemable until December 19th of this year. I would like to thank the PyCon APAC Thailand team. Thank you so much for putting together this amazing conference and allowing us the opportunity to share, this FastAPI and Flask 2.0 face-off. Thank you so much for everything. And I would love to hear from you. If you're listening to this talk, this is where you can find me. I'm on Twitter at Tonya Sims. So hope to hear from you and have a great day. Thank you.